You are listening to the Pencil and Paper Podcast Network.
You're listening to the Horror Ramblings Podcast, the show about all things horror. We hope you enjoy the show.
Ho, 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 everyone. It is December, and you are listening to the Horror Ramblings Podcast. This is your host, Lester, joined by our fellow host, Steven. How are you doing today, Steven?
Ho, ho, hilarious. It's a holiday fun for horror or whatever. I know this is, everybody either loves or hates Christmas, which I don't quite understand. I guess I can understand the hatred, but you know what? I like Christmas. I don't know why. I guess there's just some good memories from my childhood that just drifted over. The Christmas music, the lights, the whole season. I'm all for it, so I don't hate it.
I'm on the fence with Christmas. I like Christmas. It wasn't always my favorite holiday. My wife and my kids, though, they've definitely made it more fun. My parents weren't bad about Christmas. They made Christmas good for us. Mm-hmm. But I just never grabbed a hold of Christmas.
Sure.
But with the kids and everything, it's one of those things where they make it a lot more enjoyable than it would be if I was just by myself, I guess I could say.
Right.
And I think a lot of that's because my birthday and my sister's, both of my sisters, all of our birthdays are within the same week of each other, and they're all in December. Mm. So they're not close to Christmas. They're at the beginning of December, but it's like, okay.
Yeah.
And my little one, her birthday's coming up. She'll be a year old on the 8th. So, I mean, that's exciting.
Yeah.
But, Christmas is definitely, it's grown on me, I guess I could say.
Yeah, I get that. And I know that some people could argue the commercialism of Christmas, yada, yada. I get that too. And over the years, we all love getting a gift. Who doesn't love getting a gift? But I think I've gotten to a point in my life where I could just take it or leave it. I feel like if you're going to get me a gift, I want it to be something from the heart, like something that you saw and you said, oh, I know who would love that. Yeah. And they think of me, and then they get me that. Am I going to get disappointed if I don't get a gift? No. It's not going to affect me in some fashion. Same with a birthday. If you just take a moment of your time to wish me a happy birthday, you've made my day right there because you remembered that this was my birthday. Yeah. And that's all I could really take from it. So, the holidays or Christmas in general, I guess I just like the idea of it. I could do without the gifts and whatnot, but it's just
there's the whole idea of there's the whole idea of the togetherness.
Yeah,
and yes, it's the cheesy thing that they do on the Hallmark movies and everything, but it is what it is. It's a season of family being together.
Mm-hmm. And I think we all kind of want that in some way, despite knowing that some of our family may be garbage. We're just like,
even if they're a pain in the ass, you're like. You're a pain in the ass, but you're my pain in the ass.
Yeah, it would be nice.
I'm sure I'm that to some of my family. So,
mm-hmm. Which, by the way, unless I'm mistaken, by the time this comes out, people could wish you a belated birthday if they didn't know it was your birthday.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So if you missed Lester's birthday, wish him a happy birthday belated today or whenever you listen to this, and now you found out.
And if you have us on Facebook, you can find my Facebook page. And, Facebook kind of ruined the whole seeing who actually remembers your birthday thing because, it reminds everybody when your birthday comes.
Mm-hmm. I try to make, even if it's somebody I don't really talk to a lot, you've got those people you communicate with a lot on Facebook, and then you've got those people who are just, you don't even know why you added them as a friend. It's like you've added me, and yet you've never spoken a word to me. Right. I don't add people on Facebook. That's a rule I have. If you want to add me, I'll gladly accept your friend request, but I'm not going out of my way to add anybody.
Yeah.
It's just not something I want to do. You want to hang out with me? Cool. If not,
I know I look at my Facebook sometimes. I'm like, I need to clean house because there's a lot of people on here that they're not on here anymore. I don't talk to them anymore. And I don't have that many people on Facebook. And then my wife has like 700 and something people. I'm like, how many of these people do you actually talk to?
Right.
And then it's like some weird story of, yeah, this guy is the cousin of a guy that I dated like in middle school. And I'm like, okay, well, do you talk to that guy? Like, do you ever even like wish him a happy birthday? She's like, I don't even know if he's actually still on here or not, but his profile's still there. I'm like, like, just throws me off.
I do have a story that I want to share, and then I've got a few other things I want to bring up real quick before we get into the meat of our show. But on a similar story, this week on Twitter, well, not just on Twitter, but that's where all this happened. You know, that dumpster fire known as Twitter. There was a new episode from the Patreon buffet where John was going through some VHS tapes he got from John Carpenter, like some auction or whatever, and it was just a bunch of old VHS tapes, and he wanted to go through it and kind of talk about them, and he was talking to, I don't know her Twitter handle right off the top of my head. Her name is Liz. She has a podcast of her own. Again, slip in my mind. I'm sure I could Google it right now, but then that whole... you know what? I'm going to do it for the sake of not being a dick. You know, I want to promote this other podcast because who knows? Maybe we can get them on the show one day. But they were having a conversation, and I'm just going to continue this on while I'm rambling about. But they were having a conversation about the VHS tapes and whatnot, and John mentioned that he was a fan of Gilbert Gottfried's Amazing Colossal Podcast. Now, when we had him on our show, he said something that clicked. Like, oh, that's a reference to that show or something that they joke about. You know, one of those little deep cuts that if you know, you know. And if you don't, you're going to be like, well, I don't get that reference. And Late Night Ghouls, by the way, that's the name of the podcast. So check them out. And Liz, who's one of the hosts on there, she goes by... her Twitter handle is expansive. Anyway, she's from Nashville, so that's why I was like, oh, cool, local. That'd be awesome. But he made that reference to the podcast, and I was like, I fucking knew it. I knew because whatever he said. I don't remember what he said, but I remember there was a flag that went off in my head when we were in the conversation, but we were just so deep into it, I didn't want to derail it. So I made mention of that, you know, and then he, you know, in a tweet, and he was like, absolutely, I love that. And we just kind of went on a back and forth. Now, he tagged the Twitter account for the Amazing Colossal Podcast, Gilbert Gottfried, and his co-host, Frank Sancho Padre. And Frank is like, I mean, he's been in the biz. He's done stuff for like tons of shows written for animated shows. I know he's spoken about being or doing stuff behind the scenes on The View and things like that. So, I mean, he's in it, you know, and well-researched individual. I mean, just wealth of knowledge. Because of that conversation, he followed me on Twitter, and I was like, holy shit, that's awesome. I don't know why, but hell yeah, you know, I thought that was pretty cool.
That is really cool.
Yeah. So I wasn't something I was seeking out. I just, you know, I loved the show when it was on, and I hate that I won't get any new episodes now, but I highly recommend checking out. If you love old Hollywood, that was the thing about the show that really clicked with me that I didn't realize I wanted, is I first started listening because I like Gil, and, you know, you'd start looking through some of his guests, and it would be comedians or you know, people that you knew, and be like, oh yeah, that would be, I'm curious to hear a conversation about that guy. And suddenly I went down a rabbit hole, and I cannot for the life of me remember what guest it was, but it was like an agent, or like Sid Sheinberg for some reason is the name that rings a bell, but I don't think it was him. Mm-hmm. But it was an agent, somebody who'd been in the business for decades, who's seen everything from way back when, you know, and he had stories to tell, and man, were they fascinating. And at that point, it was like I was all in for anybody that they had on the show, because I was like, this man, I didn't know maybe by name, like I'd heard the name, but I didn't know who he was or what he did. And just listening to the old stories he had, I was locked in from that point on. I was like, this is my show. So it became ritual. Every Monday, Gilbert Gottfried, who was on, it didn't matter. I'm going to listen. So
Now, real quick, just because you just made me think of this for some reason. Old Hollywood stories, and this is like way off topic, but I just saw this the other day, and I saw a part of it the other day, and then I saw another thing about it actually this morning, and it was actually really touching. One of the shows that's considered one of the best TV shows of all time is the show I Love Lucy. Mm-hmm. It's seen as one of the biggest comedy shows ever. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you're a fan of I Love Lucy.
I actually am. I like it.
So I used to watch it at my grandma's house, but I found out. Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz, they got divorced.
Right.
They both remarried, but they never really stopped loving each other. And I saw this really touching video. It was one of their children. Desi was sick. He was dying, and she called her mom. She called Lucy, and she said, "Mom, I have Dad here. Dad wants to talk to you." And she put the phone to his ear, and all Lucy said repeatedly, she kept telling him that she loved him. And they didn't expect him to say much, but he spoke back to her, and he told her that he loved her too. And I guess the phone call actually happened on what would have been their anniversary. Mm-hmm. Well, I saw that the other day, and I thought that was really touching because she was basically the last person that he talked to before he passed away. Well, this morning I found out that 5 days before Lucy was inducted at the Kennedy Center, she got the Kennedy Center honors. Mm-hmm. 5 days before that happened was when he passed away. Well, he had written something for her, and they read it at the Kennedy Center. And the thing that stuck with me about it the most was he basically said that when it came to the show I Love Lucy, 90% of the credit should go to Lucy. Mm-hmm. That she could do things, she could do physical comedy in such a way that nobody could match her. And he also said that the rest of them were basically just props.
Yeah.
They were damn good props, as he put it, but they were just props. That was her show. And it ended with him writing, "And just so you know, I Love Lucy wasn't just the title." It's an old Hollywood story. You just made me think of it by talking about that. But I had listened to that, and it was just really touching. Like, they knew they were not good for each other anymore, and they got divorced because of the problems that happened between them, but they still were madly in love with each other.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool that even after his death, he was able to show her some love and respect. But sure. I know that's way off topic, but you said old Hollywood, you made me think of it.
No, I actually remember that story. I think there was a documentary on Amazon that dropped around the same time as that Aaron Sorkin movie, which I never watched because I always heard mixed things about it. With the woman Nicole Kidman and Javier Bardem. I didn't need
He's a great actor, though.
Yeah, I mean,
the
whole cast did everything looked phenomenal, but the fact that I was getting these mixed messages about the film, I was like, I don't need some fictionalized version of Lucy. The documentary is enough. And that's what I remember hearing that. This is how they ended it, and I was like, that's beautiful.
And that could be the clip that I had seen.
Probably, yeah.
Plus, the gentleman that read that to Lucy at the Kennedy Center honors, it was the I can never remember his name, but he hosted Unsolved Mysteries when it was on in the 90s.
Robert Stack. Yeah.
Yes, and he's got the voice and everything for it.
Mm-hmm. So, I'm Robert Stack.
I know you said you had a few other things to share, so go ahead.
One, I kind of wanted to touch on this because I was doing a little house cleaning over on our podcast site, just trying to sweep up some stuff, and we never seem to get notifications. We tell everybody every week, answer our polls and answer our questions, but I never get notifications that anyone has done this. Well, apparently people have been doing this.
Oh.
And I didn't know it, so I wanted to give at least a shout out to one person that I actually got a name for, because our polls, it's, usually click yes, no, or whatever we put up, and then the poll comes through. We got maybe like one singular vote on two different polls, so someone clicked, and it may have been the same person, but one person, her name was Annette Kasarik. I hope I'm saying her name correctly. She answered, specifically 2 questions from older episodes. One being, what's a horror film that you believe is overrated? She said Midsummer, which I've heard that. So fair.
I believe it. I could believe it.
Mm-hmm. And the other one was, what is your favorite horror remake? She said Night of the Living Dead. Wholeheartedly agree. That's a solid remake, in my opinion. So, shout out to Annette. Sorry we didn't shout you out sooner because we don't get notifications, but hey, we're doing it now, so hopefully you're still listening. Secondly, is I wanted to talk about something I watched last night, and I don't know, I'm sure you've seen it, or at least seen it on a service, or seen it that it's available, and it was on Vudu on sale for like $5, and I've been wanting to see it, and I didn't want to get Screambox for it, so I was like, screw it, I'm getting it. Pennywise, the story of it, which is a 2-hour documentary about the TV adaptation of Stephen King's It, talking to the old cast members.
I have not watched that.
Director Tommy Lee Wallace. It's really fascinating to hear certain elements of it, because it makes you think what it could have been. This is not to knock the new version, but it's funny when you compare the two and then you hear these stories, because there was a writer who was really involved early on, and I cannot remember his name right offhand, but he was like the primary writer. He had done adaptations for other movies. I think he actually, because of this, became the go-to guy when it came to Stephen King adaptations. They were like, hey, get that guy. He did a great job with this. But funny enough, he was only responsible for half of it, because he said he got like 2 big boxes from FedEx that was like a stack, trying to lay out what the outline for Stephen King's It on television would be. So he had to try and condense it, narrow it down. His idea is he wanted it to be a 4-night event, so 8 hours. And ABC was like, can we do 4? And he's like, all right. So 2 nights, 4 hours, that's what they had to try and condense. At some point, he had to leave, because it was like, I can't, there were just so many other people involved trying to make this work. And George Romero actually happened to be one of them, which I did not know.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that either.
So he was trying to get it done and trying to help. And I think when it came to the standards and practices, they were trying to figure out how far they could go. And there was something in that where they kept kind of butting heads. We're like, well, we can't do that, can't do that. And I think Romero was like, I got to balance, because I can't get behind this vision the way I'm seeing it. So I got to go. And I think he was going to be the one directing it until he left. And then that's when Tommy Lee Wallace came along. And the writer, again, was trying to condense all this stuff. And once they were like, hey, can we just try to maybe 6 hours? And he was trying to convince them of that. And they were just like, we got to do 4. And that's when he bounced. He was like, I can't do it, because he felt that the story was going to just lack something if you did not have that middle part. And he said, just cutting it into 2 nights or 2 parts is just not going to cut it. Yeah. So that's when he was like, I can't do this, because I don't know what more I can do. And we're on a deadline, and I've got other shit I got to do. So trying to understand that, and they all openly admit that no matter how great the cast was, because they had nothing but praise for every cast member, which I was so happy to hear, because they all did fantastic. I wholeheartedly agree that. But they also all admitted part 2 was weak, because it needed something. Part 1 was strong, and the writer, the guy I said only was responsible for half, that's the one he's credited for. He did part 1. And if he would have been able to stick around and refine part 2, it could have been much stronger, because they all admitted, like the story, or the spider at the end. It's just, I know it's in the book, but it's not what you wanted. They also like, man, if we just go back and make it Pennywise they're fighting and not a spider or something like that, it may have had more of an impact, because that's the character we're all relating to. That's the character we're connecting to, and then they just take it away. Yeah. So they all openly admit so many things about what worked, what didn't, what they wish they could have done. I don't know. It was really fascinating. I highly recommend it if you've watched that TV movie, because it's like that. One of the things somebody said on there, it's the one TV movie everyone remembers. You think
Yeah.
of any other TV movie in existence, rarely are there any that people are like, oh yeah, I remember that. This is one that's still shown to this day. It's been on DVD and Blu-ray, and it's withstood the test of time.
I have it downstairs right now, so.
Yeah. I mean, and it comes down, I mean, they all credit it essentially to Tim Curry, you know.
Wouldn't it be amazing if some even a streaming service got a hold of the original huge stack that they had and went, you know what, let's roll with it. Yeah, it'd be a new cast, but
No, dude.
still.
Yeah, I was, because the other part of it that was funny, talking about the standards and practices that they had on television at that time. Think of today. I mean, one of the guys said we could have done Game of Thrones. I mean, we could have done exactly everything that we'd planned on doing, and it would have been like Game of Thrones. You know, no stopping us, no, because look at what you can do on cable now. I mean,
True.
The gore
Very
levels.
true.
I mean, I don't know if you watched the second season of Chucky yet, but season 2, the finale, I won't say what it was, but they had a scene, like you talking about pushing the limits of gore. I was like, damn, man, they went Terrifier right now. I was like, holy shit. All right, good on them, man.
I like how that's your comparison to Terrifier.
There's a specific reason for that, and I won't say why, but it was like, all right, cool, whatever. And again, they get to drop 10 F-bombs an episode. When you think about that, when we were kids, that was a fuck on television? No, you can't hear that. You have to have HBO for that.
Right?
So it's amazing. Yeah, that right there would easily, they could have done the 4 nights. They could have done the 8-hour stretch, everything. It could have been just a miniseries. Sell it to HBO Max.
Right? I think that would be awesome.
Hell yeah. But
See
again,
a vision that never happened. I mean, that would just, yeah. And they're doing that new Pennywise prequel series.
yeah, Welcome to Derry, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. And I've been hearing some of the people behind it, they're like, it's extremely twisted, it's extremely messed up. I'm like, okay, I can get behind this.
And you know, as long as you're not teetering on certain elements, like saying, hey, we got to go back to this, or we got to reference that thing there. I love it when a show can just stand on its own merits and it's not trying to reference this or that or be like, hey, look that thing that you know. Just tell a great story. Don't worry about the references and things like that.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm hoping they do. You know, if you've got to tie in any elements from the books, don't make them overtly necessary or blatant to where it just detracts from the story you're trying to tell.
Yeah. I'll tell you something that this is really random too, but HBO Max related. Something that got put up there. It was on Adult Swim, but it got posted up on HBO Max, and I kind of discovered it by accident.
Mm-hmm.
The show Primal.
Okay.
I don't know if
I've heard of it. I've not watched it.
I really enjoyed it.
Okay.
And apparently there's a rumor going around. There's a show that was called Dexter's Laboratory.
Yeah, I remember that.
There's an episode of that where there's a caveman that he brings to his lab, and apparently the conspiracy that's going around is the caveman from Primal is the same caveman as from the old show Dexter's Lab.
Okay.
But the guy that wrote it, you know, this is like an original idea. They didn't have any talking in it for the longest time.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a caveman teaming up with a dinosaur, and it's just it's a story that goes off of its own. I don't think he really based it off of, you know, anything that exists, but talking about shows that, you know, can hold their own, you know, their own merit and everything. I'm going to say that if you're somebody that likes random things to watch, give it a watch because you'll probably like it. It's really random. I know that's really random. I'm kind of all over the place today, but I was just, for some reason, I was thinking about that when you're talking about shows that kind of just stand on their own. And I'm like, that's one that I really enjoyed, that it's not really based off of anything else that I know of.
Right.
So, but did you have anything else? Because I know you said you had a few things.
No, that was the last one. Is I wanted to kind of bring that up and recommend that to everyone. I was trying to remember if I watched anything else horror related this week, but I don't feel like I did. I know that there were some. There was that trailer. Yeah, I did want to talk about that because there were a few. Was there more than one? I just remember. I don't know if you saw this trailer for this movie, and I guess I don't know if I would see it as a horror flick. Cocaine Bear.
Yes.
I want
Yes.
to see this so bad. And they said it's inspired by true events. Katrina and I looked it up just to see what they were talking about because this was near home, or at least, 4 hours away in Knoxville. And apparently in 1985, same kind of situation where I guess someone had been dropping cocaine out of their plane or something. I don't remember the whole bit, but a bear got a hold of a big stack of cocaine and did not go on a rampage, but actually overdosed. So at least we know, so it's just like the what if scenario. It's like, okay, but what if the cocaine actually just took him on a trip?
Fried him out of his mind and made him go nuts. I did see the trailer for this, and it's self-aware. It knows that the idea is completely ridiculous.
Yeah.
But in the best ways. I think there's even a scene in the trailer, if I remember right, where the bear, I think, talks or something. Cause,
it seemed like it,
they're tripping. Yeah, I don't know if it was really talking, but it kind of seemed like it was. Mm-hmm. And the kid made me laugh. Bears can't climb trees. And the guy's like, yeah, they can.
Yeah.
And the bear sees that the kid's climbing higher, and the guy's just staying there. So the bear climbs up the tree that the guy's, and he's like, oh, no. No, it looked phenomenal.
See,
did you go ahead?
Well, that's the type of horror comedy I'm talking about. Something that knows what it is, and it's not trying to mislead you in any other way. It's just like, yeah, this is going to be an insanity, just from start to finish. So I'm all in for it. I can't wait.
Now, did you watch the trailer for The Mean One?
Yes, I did.
What did you think? Because I think it looks like it's going to be ridiculous, but I think it's going to be good.
It seems like it would be an interesting watch. I know that Katrina rolled her eyes like, what are they doing? Why do they continue to do this? I said, this is the trend right now. Everybody wants to be on these.
I'm all for it.
Yeah. What was we didn't even talk about this, but the one that I shared in Discord and on Facebook, Bambi the Reckoning.
Yes.
I'm curious. Why not?
We've got that coming. The Mean One. We've got that coming. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Mm-hmm. I know there's a few other ideas that they've been sort of tossing around. I know that if Disney doesn't get their copyright stuff taken care of, because it seems like every few years they go and they get copyright law changed.
Yeah.
Mickey Mouse is supposed to become public domain on January 1st of 2024, I think.
Oh boy.
So a horror movie Mickey Mouse film, I could get behind that too.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be highly entertaining.
Oh yeah.
And just a real quick, this will sort of get us into our subject of the day, but the guy that plays Art the Clown, I'm terrible with names, but that actor who's also playing the Mean One, I'm just gonna put this out there, and I've probably said this before. We've had Cheney Morrow on the show. Mm-hmm. He's a nice guy, love him to death. He talked about how he would love the opportunity to play Freddy Krueger.
Yeah.
Well, if for some reason that doesn't happen for him and they need somebody else to play Freddy, I think it would be interesting to see the actor that plays Art the Clown take on the role of Freddy.
Okay.
I could get behind that. Like, I just, there's something about him. I feel like it would be really interesting to see his take. Mm-hmm. And to get into our subject, because this is a really roundabout way of doing it, good old Freddy Krueger with his Christmas sweater, his red and green sweater.
Get your shots ready, people. He
could be a Christmas slasher. They've never really done a Nightmare on Elm Street Christmas film.
Yeah, really.
That would be interesting. But let's get into that subject today, because that's what we're talking about. Christmas horror films, because let's be honest, there's a lot of them, and they bring together two of the best things, the holidays and horror.
If done right.
If done right. Mm-hmm. First question, real quick.
Okay.
Is Gremlins a Christmas movie?
Yes.
Okay.
I this is the one I will argue, because when people like to say, well, Die Hard's a Christmas movie. Yeah, but you know what? There's nothing overtly Christmassy about Die Hard other than the fact that it takes place on Christmas. Gremlins takes place in Kingston Falls, snow everywhere, decorations everywhere, holiday singing, Santa Claus. It feels like Christmas. Does it not?
No, I completely agree.
This is a Christmas movie or a horror film in a Christmas setting. This is a Christmas movie, horror Christmas movie. So no, I will argue this vehemently because there are, I feel like you have to have these elements. You have to have Christmas injected into it. Okay,
Yeah.
so say if there was a horror movie where a guy was dressed up as Santa Claus, but it was the middle of July. No, that's not a Christmas horror film because, okay, what? You're thinking, you've got your wheels turning.
You just gave me an idea for a horror film. You could call it Christmas in July.
See? There we go.
I know that's random, but I just...
And then once you do that, then you have to do the fight where it's like Christmas in July, whoever the Santa killer is there, and he has to fight Uncle Sam. And it's like,
That would be epic.
4th of Christmas or whatever fuck you want to call it. I don't know.
It's Independence Day, Kris Kringle.
But no, Gremlins, absolutely a Christmas movie that's a comedy / horror fantasy, and it's one of my all-time favorites. Go to. I don't watch it every Christmas, but yeah, I'll put it on. Why not? I love it.
Not a bad choice. And I had to ask if it was a Christmas movie because there's just something about when you go off about Die Hard that I absolutely love. So to hear you talk about it not being a Christmas movie, it just makes me happy.
Not a Christmas movie. Not.
Now, I have another film just real quick, and then I know you've probably got quite a few.
Mm-hmm.
This one came out in 2015, and this one I think is kind of slept on. It's one of those movies that I know not a lot of people have seen, but I absolutely love it. It's called A Christmas Horror Story.
I feel like I've heard of it, but I don't think I've seen it.
It's like an anthology film, sort of. But there is a story that kind of runs throughout, like you see different parts of it throughout the film.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Santa's at the North Pole, and Krampus is there, and the elves are getting turned into like zombies or something. So Santa's having to kill his own elves and fight Krampus. Well, there's a scene in it where you find out it might not actually be the real North Pole, and it might be the fact that a mall Santa has gone crazy and he's hallucinating and he's killing innocent people.
Ooh.
Yeah. Highly recommend it. I'm not sure where all you can find it right now. Let's see here. You can watch it on Amazon Prime with a premium subscription.
See, there you go. Amazon Prime, always coming through.
If you get the chance, and I'm even telling you and all the listeners, if you get the chance to watch it, take a little time. And if you do watch it, let me know what you think of it. But it's a really great movie. It's a lot of fun. And the guy that plays Santa throughout most of it, there's just something about him. Like he's entertaining.
Okay.
Because he's really serious.
Yeah.
As Santa, he's like, I gotta save the elves, and like it's like an action movie almost in parts. Right. But I'll let you get into some horror films because I'm sure you have some good ones.
I wanted to try to go and find some that maybe a lot of people don't talk about, and the one that kind of came to mind, and I only recently watched this, and I want to bring it up for several reasons. It goes by two titles. Either you know it as Christmas Evil or You Better Watch Out. This came out in 1980. It stars, funny enough, his name is Brandon Maggart, who you might not know by name, but you might know his face. He is the father, if I've got this correctly, he's the father of singer Fiona Apple. I don't know if you remember her or not.
Okay.
And is a distant cousin of mine.
Really?
No shit. Not even
super
lying.
Cool.
So it's one of those horror films of the 80s where, and I say 80s, it was like right there at the cusp of the 80s. It felt like it was one of those that was trying to do something shocking. Like, Halloween had come out 2 years prior. So there was this element where you had to start the movie off with some kind of reasoning as to why the person who's going to go on a killing spree does weird shit. And it's almost like every one of these films that came out after Halloween tried to top it in some way. So there was like, what would be the weirdest thing that, could just dement this kid? So as a child, this boy learned that Santa Claus was not real by seeing his mother get it on with Santa Claus, who was, daddy. And they were doing some kinky shit down by the Christmas tree. Santa was getting his cookies and milk, if you know what I mean, and I think you do. So he grows up and he has this innocence to him, you know? He's a toy factory worker. He wants to he wants to remember Christmas the way he always remembered it. Yeah. And what makes the movie interesting to me is he doesn't seem like a bad person, you know? There's a lot of people who are just being assholes around him. They're just like, dude, what is wrong with you? Why can't you just let stuff go? And he's just in this way where he's like, man, I want to do right. You know, Christmas is about this, it's about that. And it's all about the purity of Christmas that he wants to hang on to. And you can kind of understand that. And I feel like the mental scarring he got as a kid, I don't know if it would really work to this degree, but whatever. I appreciate what they were trying to go for. He's a sweet man. He's got a sweet heart, and he wants to do good, and everybody around him is, you know, kind of a jerk ass or just, you know, doesn't care, and they don't understand it the way he does. Now, at some point in the film, he has a breakdown, but this is after he does something completely generous. Like he goes to the toy factory, he gathers up all these toys, he takes all this stuff to an orphanage and drops off all this stuff. Like Santa Claus. He's like, ho, 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 Merry Christmas, takes off. He does a great deed. But then this is where the movie gets a little weird. This is like he turns on a dime. And the guy who had been giving him the most grief, he kills him. And then he just, from that point on, it's like downhill slope. And the ending of the movie, I don't know how to explain it. Because you're thinking, okay, so was the last shot in this film actually happening? Or was this happening in his mind? I would like to think the latter, because if it was actually happening, then you've lost me 100%. You know, this was just in his head, and he was like, yes, I'm getting away, and, you know, whatever, and he can't have gotten away. That's all I'm saying. But there's a good idea there. I feel like this is a film ripe for a remake to kind of work out some of the kinks and really kind of hone in on having a killer that you could honestly root for in a way, you know, unlike someone like Jason or Freddy that, you know, we watch for obvious reasons and root for obvious reasons, but a sympathetic killer, you know, that maybe the guy he killed, it was an accident, or maybe he's being tracked down for the wrong reasons, and only in his heart that did he want to do right, and it just kind of got out of control. I don't know, but it comes off like it's a Killer Santa movie, but I really feel like it's mislabeled as such. I feel like there's a really good idea there, and it just needs to be worked out a little bit more.
Sounds like an interesting idea.
It's really an interesting film, and if you want to check it out with some background, it was on the Drive-In, one of their Christmas specials a few years ago. They aired it along with another film, which I don't think I've ever seen, and I cannot remember for the life of me what it was called, but highly recommend checking it out there, because Joe Bob's got a lot of great trivia about Brandon Maggart, and his brother in the movie. I don't know if you'd know him by name, but you definitely know who he is. Jeffrey DeMunn. He was in The Walking Dead. He was in The Green Mile. A lot of Frank Darabont projects. In The Walking Dead, he was, God, I can't remember his name. He was the older gentleman with the fisherman's hat.
The guy that played Dale.
Dale! There you go. Thank you.
Yeah. I would not have guessed by name, but yeah, by face. He's actually one of my favorite actors. Mm-hmm. As far as, like, it's one of those actors I don't remember his name, but I love him in everything I see him in.
Yeah. Guaranteed to be, he's one of those actors that who's got a director that you know that he's going to be in their movie, and Frank Darabont, he's definitely one of his go-to actors. So if it's directed by Frank Darabont, Tim Buxey's going to be in it. So, which means he was in The Green Mile, he was in Shawshank Redemption, you know,
all great films.
The Mist. There you go. So
yeah, I forget he's in The Mist. Mm-hmm. I always forget that he's in that.
Yeah. So I recommend that. I won't say that it's just like this true hidden gem classic, but there's a good idea there, you know? There's a really good idea there, and I just felt like they didn't work out the kinks properly.
Now, what is the one film? I think it's from the early 80s maybe, where the I know they did a short of it on there's a Tales from the Crypt movie. It's not the Tales from the Crypt that we all know.
I did want to talk about this, yes. There is a
It's
Tales from the Crypt movie, the one that was in 1973. Now, this was a...
Yes.
This was I think it was a UK production, believe it or
It
not.
was, yes.
And there was a story in that, and I know which one you're talking about. This was actually one I wanted to bring up as kind of not really a movie suggestion per se, but it's a great horror Christmas story.
And for some reason I thought they had done like a full movie, maybe not of that exact version, but something inspired by that.
They did remake it for the HBO show. So if you can find that, that episode was directed by Robert Zemeckis and Larry Drake playing the demented Santa. Oh my God, dude. Larry Drake, if you don't know him by name, best thing I could Darkman. He was Durant, the main bad guy.
Yeah.
He was also in Dr. Giggles. He was, I don't know if anyone remembers Dr. Giggles, but he was Dr. Giggles. I'm sure he's done a lot more, and I don't know why I'm spacing on it, but no, Larry Drake, he just, like, he absolutely owned that role in that, and Mary Ellen Trainor played the murderous wife who gets her comeuppance, and she does a phenomenal job. In fact, this is one of the best trivia bits I remember from that short, or that episode. It wasn't a short, I guess. But who was it? The guy that wrote Tales from the Crypt, or created it. Oh, God, what's his name? It's right there. Damn it. See, why can't I remember this stuff? I know him. William Gaines. See, I didn't finish typing. Thank you, brain. You remembered something. He said, like, his only director note for that episode was make sure at that final shot she screams her head off, like ballistic. And she did. She owned it. I mean, it was just like pure terror. Got his seal of approval. Like, yep, I'm good. I love it. So
yeah, in the original in the 73, you said 73, right?
72. Sorry, I got to actually pulled it up. Yeah, so close.
In that version, I love at the end where the little girl goes, "Mommy, Santa was outside. I let him in the house." And when he looks at the mom and he's like, "Naughty or nice?" And she just goes into panic mode. Like, that still sticks with me about that.
Yeah,
I'm glad we were on the same page with that one, because for some reason I thought that they had done a full-length film, and I'm sure there's several films that have been inspired loosely by that. The Psycho Santa seems to be a pretty safe idea for them to run with.
But I don't know what it is about that. I mean, that particular story, even, like, I'll even say that for the original Tales from the Crypt movie, that's actually one of my favorite bits there. It's just a solid story.
Yeah.
Because it's not just about some Psycho Santa. It's about a woman who's getting her comeuppance, and it just happens to be a Psycho Santa. And I think in that version, it was Joan Collins, who was pretty big at the time. And it's such a messed up kind of story, because you're wondering what, her deal is. And then he just, just happens to be there. He got it out of the insane asylum. I'm pretty sure that's what the story was. You hear it on the radio.
Yep.
And she's just like, whatever, I'm going to get my way. And then he just happens to choose their house. And it's just how it works. I don't know. I love that story. It's just well told, well made. And both versions, I'll give it credit for both.
Yeah, that's the thing. At the beginning with her killing her husband, you're instantly invested, because you're like, okay, what's going on here?
Yeah. They don't waste any time. I mean, it just like starts with that. So
yeah, no, right to it. The thing that always made me laugh about the episode, though, is I think there's a part where she sees him, like, outside, if I remember right. She, like, sees him outside, but she's got all the windows and stuff locked. And to me, even in the movies, like, when they don't know that the killer's on their property or whatever, when the radio comes on and goes, "Make sure all your doors and windows are locked." Okay, well, if he's got an axe or something, he's going to get through my door or window.
And, it also kind of leaves it a little ambiguous. And I don't really know how. I want to think that maybe he doesn't hurt the little girl,
right?
Because he seems like he's solely focused on the mom, and that's where his attention lies. So I don't know. I mean, it does make you kind of uneasy because you're like, okay, so is he going to kill her, the little girl, or is he going to let her live?
And it made me ask like a lot of questions. Like, is he going to go to other houses and like get all of the kids because he's Santa? Like, does he think he's Santa and he's punishing the naughty people?
Mm-hmm. So
go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, for anyone who wants to find this, I'm trying. I think you might be able to find it on streaming. I was looking on Vudu, but I'm not sure if they're actually selling it or not.
I'm pretty sure I saw it on Prime at one point because I typed in Tales from the Crypt because I was trying to find, the Crypt Keeper episodes, and I thought that I had seen it there.
All right, Tales from the Crypt, Prime. Let's look. I want to help people out because even if you just buy that one episode, worth it. Damn. Says currently unavailable. Ain't that some shit? But
there it is.
The second episode of season 1. So if you can find it, definitely check it out.
And if you want to watch the movie that it's included in, I think you can find it fairly easy. The one from 72?
The thing I have right here says it's on Plex. So that's one option you have. That's a free movie app. You got to watch your commercials and whatnot. But I actually kind of recommend it. There were a few. They actually remade, if I'm not mistaken, all the stories in that movie on the HBO series, because there was at least one other one that I remember. I don't remember all the stories that they told, but I remember one where some woman was walking through a wall and there were like razor blades. It just always freaked me out, because I don't remember all the details of that story, but I remember seeing it on both.
Well, and Tales from the Crypt kind of bounced back and forth. Like they filmed a lot over here, and then they actually went over to the UK and they did a lot as well. You would talk about a show that's got a lot of interesting like stories for the background. That's definitely one of them.
Well, you know what? I think we ought to table that because I think we're going to turn this into a Tales from the Crypt episode because clearly we've got a lot to say about it.
We will have to do a separate episode about that.
Yeah. Okay.
But back to Christmas.
Sorry.
Let's see. I've got a newer film.
Okay.
It's called Better Watch Out. Don't know if you've seen that one.
Heard that. What is that?
It's more of a comedy. This kid is basically obsessed with his babysitter. Mm-hmm. And when the story is when she, turns him down, he goes on a killing spree. But they make jokes about like Home Alone and things like that. There's a scene where he's got her boyfriend tied to a chair. Mm-hmm. And he goes, "Let's try the paint can trick from Home Alone." And obviously the paint can, busts the guy's skull in. And yeah, it's got a lot of comedy to it. The kid is not very strong. Mm-hmm. And there's a couple of guys that come to the house that are a lot stronger than he is. So he comes up with some creative ways to kill them. It's really like if Macaulay Culkin decided to go on a killing spree. I highly recommend it. It's a short watch. I don't think it's a very long film.
Okay. Would that not be that's another Christmas horror idea? They ought to Home Alone, but like the little kid is a psychopath, and two robbers get in, and you probably have to make it more than two.
Yeah, I mean, there's a video on YouTube of Home Alone. It's they basically assess what kind of injuries they would have suffered from what happened to them in it, and it would have taken like 15 Marvs to get through the film and like 12 Harrys to get through the film.
I think I saw that. Yeah,
it's a funny watch. It's a funny watch. And then they have Home Alone, but it's rated R. Have you seen that?
No.
They add visual effects to it. Like they did it for Home Alone 1 and Home Alone 2, and there's a scene in it where the birds are attacking them. Mm-hmm. And one of them pops up and they're screaming and their eyeballs are out of their head.
No, I haven't seen. All right, I'm gonna have to look this up.
You'll have to find it. It's Home Alone rated R, I think is what it's called. But they take different clips from the movies and they add that to them. It's nuts.
Interesting.
But yeah, Better Watch Out is one that you should definitely see. There's another movie. I have not seen the newest version. They've made several versions of it. Okay. Black Christmas.
Okay, yeah. I have not watched the newer one. I've seen the original.
Yeah, I'm not. It's been a long time for me, so I'm not super familiar, but I do remember Black Christmas being, if I remember right, because I think Black Christmas has been remade like twice, maybe 3 times. Because 2019 is when the latest one came out, and I think they had another one, but I think they called it Black Xmas instead. It was basically the same thing. And it came out in like 2006, I think it was.
No, I missed that one.
Yeah, 2006, Black Xmas.
I have to look that
I
one
remember
up.
one of them. Yeah, I remember one of them being kind of a slow burn.
Yeah.
But I can't remember which one.
Well, I mean, the original is definitely kind of has a slow burn feel to it, but I mean, that's of the time, because we're talking about a movie that was made in 1974, and ironically, wouldn't you know it, Black Christmas was directed by Bob Clark, who is most famous for now, probably, or his most famous Christmas movie would be A Christmas Story. And if he's also known for anything else, it was directing the movie Porky's, which is a teen romp comedy. If you've never seen that, that's a movie of its time. I feel like it would offend so many people today, but if you grew up watching it, you can kind of just set your feelings aside and just take. There's some things in that movie that people might consider questionable, but I still get a kick out of it. You know, they get their comeuppance in a manner of ways, and I'll just leave it there. But no, Black Christmas, I mean, there's a lot of great stuff in that movie, especially the POV of the killer. I mean, we never really get kind of a satisfying, hopefully no spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen it, but I don't feel like we get a definitive answer as to who the killer was from what I remember of the film. And everything is shot with that POV, you know, when we're seeing the killer, we never get to see the killer's face. We never get to see any kind of semblance of who this is. And I don't know if that had been done at that time, like up to that point, like that was a first. And then we see it again, like in Halloween 4 years later. So that was kind of a, you know, groundbreaking in some ways.
Yeah, they did it before Halloween did it. And Halloween probably popularized it. Sure. But, you know, that's one of those things you think that an idea came from a certain point. Yeah. But you look back, this is completely random too, but it's just like yesterday I was talking with my father about the moonwalk. Everybody thinks that Michael Jackson invented the moonwalk. He didn't. It was done before him. Yeah. You know, he just popularized it. So
that is true. And I mean, other aspects, if you want to look into other people who were kind of involved, the cast, Olivia Hussey, go back to the Pennywise story of it. She wasn't actually in the documentary, but she was mentioned. As far as I know, she's still alive. She just may have not wanted to participate. There were a few actors and actresses that didn't, which was a shame. But she was in Psycho 4. She was Norman's mom in that film, which I recommend all the Psycho movies. They all have something that you can kind of look at, and it's interesting. Yeah. So she's done other horror films. Margot Kidder, she was in the Amityville Horror, I'm almost positive, with James Brolin, and best known as Lois Lane in Superman, the original Superman.
The Amityville house is up for sale.
Who wants to buy that shit?
It's funny too, because a lot of people are like, it's not haunted, because they actually moved the house off the property. And now people are like, it's not haunted anymore. I'm like, there's a lot of bad juju around that house. I'm good.
Yeah, no. I would stay there just because I know we've talked about this, and I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole very far, but I'm not a believer in that shit. So I would do it just to kind of, if you wanted to prove it to me, that would be the place to do it. You know what I'm saying? Because we've heard so many bad stories, so I'd have to see it for myself. I'd have to be there.
I'm a little disappointed because they took out the windows that look like eyes.
See, no, that was the defining feature.
Yeah, they took them out. It's because the people were tired of people coming to the house, you know, to take pictures and things like that. They just wanted to be left alone. I'm sorry, but if I lived in a house that was that famous, I would pay my rent.
Oh yeah,
I'd pay my mortgage with. Yeah, come take pictures. You can come sleep in the room where the murders happened. Here you go.
$50, $100.
Yeah, $50 a night, $100 a night. Come on.
Come on. Another actor in the film, horror royalty, if you want to get real specific, John Saxon's in the movie. You know, from Nightmare on Elm Street. I know he's better known for other things, but hey,
he was a fantastic actor.
He was fantastic. We lost him this year, wasn't it? Or was it last year?
I feel like he's been recent. Gone. Yeah, it's been maybe a few years.
I don't know why it feels so recent.
Let me see here.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up. 2020, so it was 2 years ago.
I was gonna say it was I didn't get the chance to meet him. We were going to go to a convention, and there was a change of plans, and I never got to meet him, which really just irked me so bad.
Yeah.
I didn't get to meet Wes Craven either, but he didn't really do the convention circuit.
Sure.
But he didn't tell a lot of people he was sick either, so because he had brain cancer. So
It's a shame.
but let's get back to the jolly stuff.
Okay, let's do it. What do you
I got one.
Okay.
I got one. Something that I love with horror is comedy.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a film that is a guilty pleasure, Santa's Sleigh. Have you seen that?
I have heard of it, but I have never watched it. I know of it.
It's a 2005 movie. I'm gonna read this to you real quick. It says, after a millennium of spreading Christmas cheer, Santa Claus, Bill Goldberg,
Yes.
reverts to his demonic self and gives the gift of fear.
Okay.
This movie's a wild ride. You've got Goldberg as Santa, throwing people around, killing people in the most just
ridiculous
creative ways. He doesn't even have a, maybe that's why he was so pissed.
Maybe.
He doesn't even have a reindeer. He has like a buffalo or something crazy that pulls his sleigh around.
Okay.
I'm trying to see if there's any like big names here. The couple people we have here, you might be able to place them. Goldberg was Santa, obviously. We've got Douglas Smith. He's a younger guy. He was the main kid. You've got Robert Culp.
I do know that name.
Yeah,
he
looks really familiar.
I Spy was his big show with Bill Cosby.
Okay, well,
Back in the day.
he is one of the main characters in it. He plays the grandpa in it. The grandpa is actually the person who stopped Santa all these years ago. Dave Thomas.
Like Dave Thomas is in like the comedian Dave Thomas
Let's see.
from SCTV.
Yeah, Canadian actor, comedian, and television writer. Yep.
He does a great Bob Hope impression. If no one knows who Bob Hope is, look him up.
If you don't know who Bob Hope is, get out from under your rock.
It's amazing that the talent people don't know anymore, but here we are.
Oh, and Fran Drescher's in it, and I'm sorry. But, yeah, you know. And speaking of Bob Hope, somebody said something to me the other day, and it really hit me because I hadn't thought about it. Somebody said that, Bob Hope defined a certain generation.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about it, even though he's gone, Robin Williams was kind of like the Bob Hope of another generation. And I thought about that, and I really thought about that. And I'm like, in a lot of ways, that is pretty accurate. Like, not completely, but in his own right, he was, yeah.
Yeah, I guess I could see that.
I was a big Robin Williams fan.
Sure, yeah. What's funny is I remember my most of my memories for Bob Hope was he always had these specials on television every so often, whether it was like doing shows for the troops or some Christmas special. And I don't think I ever sat and watched one from beginning to end, but I always remember them being on and on the television, and he would just come out and be like, "Hey guys, how you doing? I'm Bob Hope, and I'm going to tell you a joke," and give it that little look, and then just go about his business. I mean, he had a great delivery. I'll give him that as far as jokes, but
yeah,
it's a shame people don't remember a lot of these.
I saw him do a lot of roast, and they've been posting up all these old roasts all over. The Dean Martin roasts where they would come and you want to talk about a way to offend people very quickly. Show them some of those old roasts, because I'm gonna tell you something. There's a lot of stuff that's said that would not fly today.
No, but
and
hey.
Fun fact: not Bob Hope. Dean Martin was actually from Ohio.
Huh.
He used to run around with my grandma on my dad's side.
Holy shit. That's awesome.
And I'd have to dig the picture out, but there is a photo at my aunt's since passed away, but her daughters have all the photos and everything. There is a photo of her with Bob. I could keep wanting to say Bob Hope with Dean Martin. Because they actually used to run around together.
Mm-hmm.
So, fun fact.
Fun facts indeed.
But yeah, if you get the chance to see Santa's Sleigh, that's another film you should. It's so bad it's good. That's the only way I can put it.
Okay.
Because it's cheesy.
Yeah. I'm trying to find some others that really stick with me, because there's another one I kind of want to bring up, but I don't know if I'd recommend it. Like, I recommend it just for the sake of, I feel like you've got to watch it once. And I'm sure that there are people out there who be like, no, absolutely, this is a high recommendation, but I just don't know if it's one that I'll revisit.
Okay.
And it's a series. There's a whole series of these movies. Silent Night, Deadly Night, which really was the pinnacle of starting the controversy, because there was so much controversy with that movie about Santa killing and the imagery of it, which is kind of ironic when you think about it, or just odd, because Christmas Evil, I think, came out 4 years before, and it showed Santa with an axe on the poster, and maybe it just got buried and no one ever thought to watch it, so it was just like, eh. But then you have, I'll admit, as a kid, this one always kind of, it's the imagery stuck with me, okay? Think about going to a video store, you walk by the horror section, and all you see is Santa's arm holding an axe going down the chimney. It's great imagery, okay? Yeah. It sets an image in your head where you're like, I don't know what this is, but it kind of terrifies me. So it just, and it has fuck all to do with Santa actually going on a killing spree. We have another one of these weird openings that has something to do with sex. What was the deal with that? That's the other part of it too. It's like they all felt like these traumatic moments had to do with sex because of what Carpenter did with Michael Myers. It's like, oh my God, my sister's banging, so I got to go kill her. So this kid who was maybe not even, he was a year old, maybe? Seriously, a year old, 2 tops. Apparently witnessed his mom. No. He was older. It was his little brother. That's where it gets even weirder. Because in any case, the kid was like 4 years old. He was just a child. His mother got raped and killed on the side of the road by Santa Claus. Yeah. Who was just some lunatic. And then they grow up in an orphanage. Now, what makes it weirder is if you get into part 2, somehow his little brother, who was the infant, I remember that now. That's why I was getting it mixed up. He was probably a year to 2 years old and somehow remembers all the shit too. Is like, dude, you were an infant. You don't remember shit. But little Billy, he gets it in his head, that, it's naughty, and people who are naughty, Santa's got to go punish those people because his grandfather drills it into his head. And then it's in that same vein as Christmas Evil, where you think he's traumatized, obviously, and then maybe he's gonna do something good because he witnesses this girl in the store that he works at, and he gets forced to become Santa, the store mall Santa or whatever, which he doesn't want to do, but he puts on the suit and he's like, I guess I'll do this, even though he could just say I'd rather not. But movie. Right. The movie has to happen, so we have to do this. And then when this guy is essentially about to, because there's a lot of rape in this film, apparently. When this guy is getting ready to rape this girl in the store, which he is sweet on, he stops it and kills the guy. Now, did he go too far? Sure. But then he turns to the girl and kills her too. Now, what did she do? You almost had us at sympathy, and then you go and kill her. So, and now you just lost everybody. And then from that point on, he's just walking around going, kill, 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 and then kills everybody within a 5-mile radius and just wherever he goes. And
well, all right.
Yeah, I mean, there's some good stuff in there for a horror film. There were some good kills and some interesting bits, but it's just really silly, and it's a hard recommendation, Even the second one is it's a mockery, because they essentially show half this movie and then tack on another 20, 30 minutes. And then that's where I'm sure you've seen the meme, Garbage Day is where that comes from. Guy holding a gun. Why does that have shit to do with Christmas? I don't know. And I've never watched the 3rd, 4th, or 5th, which have nothing to do with these movies, or at least I think after 3 is when they start to diverge. And, of course, they've got Mickey Rooney, the #1 star in the world. Bang. The world.
Speaking of, that's going to be a hard one to top. I have a recommendation for a movie that is just, when I say this, you're going to be like, really? This came out in 1997. And this scared the shit out of me when I saw the cover.
I think I know.
Because it was one of those covers that,
I know where you're going. I know where you're going.
Jack Frost.
I knew this was going to come up.
The inmate that becomes a killer snowman. Yeah. Interesting idea, and all the puns
Yeah.
There's a scene where he turns into water. He gets in the bathtub. He becomes a snowman. His carrot nose is now on his face, and basically a snowman rapes someone with a carrot nose, and he kills her.
Rape in Christmas. I mean, come on. This is weird.
The holidays, I guess.
I guess.
Bring up that whole song, baby, it's cold outside.
There we go. Yeah.
Not that we're making jokes about rape, people. That's,
No.
Seriously, that should never happen.
Nope. We're with you, ladies.
But there's two of them. There's two of the Jack Frost films. The second one, they go to like Hawaii, and Jack ends up following them. But it's
because a snowman could exist in Hawaii.
He makes the weather change and all kinds of crazy stuff. And in the first one, he pushes a sled over a kid's neck, decapitates him. He kills some woman, makes her a Christmas tree, shoves like the star down her throat, and it's gory, it's cheesy, but it's actually kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean, I remember watching it at least once, and
yeah, and there's a scene in it too that I absolutely like. Every time I see it, it makes me laugh. He opens his mouth, he opens his big snowman mouth, and he grows these teeth. They're icicles, and he's getting ready to bite the guy, and like the camera angle is from Jack's point of view. And the guy's like, what's it feel like to have all that power? Blah, blah, blah. And he's like, it feels cold. And then he bites him. And then he pulls back, and he's got him like next to him. And if selfies existed at the time, they would have had a selfie taken probably. But he's there with his bloody face, and he's like, talk about a serious case of frostbite. It's the dumbest shit ever, but it makes me laugh every time I see it. Plus, the other thing that really makes me laugh, Disney released a film called Jack Frost that's actually a really touching film. It's about a dad who dies in a car accident, and he returns for some reason in the form of a snowman to let his son know, that he loves him and everything else. These movies came out pretty close together, I think. Or at least horror movie. Yeah, the horror movie was still at the movie store, like at the rental place, when the other one came out. So they're both called Jack Frost. I wonder how many times they got mixed up.
I mean, you would hope it wouldn't be that much, because you look at the cover of Jack Frost, and I know it was one of those tricky-dicky little, he's a snowman, he's a demon, but that would have been really fucked up.
Well, and I wonder how many people, like if they worked there or something, because I remember them being here and they were both on VHS. And all the VHS said was Jack Frost, So how many times do you think maybe somebody wasn't paying attention and they didn't see the Disney logo and they just put it in the wrong case?
Yeah.
Or, me being the jerk that I am, walk over to him and go, I'm going to mess up some little kid's Christmas. Switch. It happens. Yeah. But I have to tell you this because it's hilarious. The hero of the film is Christopher Allport. That's the actor who played the sheriff. He died in an avalanche.
In real life.
Yikes. I know that's terrible. Irony. And when I first had read that, because for some reason I looked up the movie, and I was looking up, like, Shannon Elizabeth's in it. She's the one in the bathtub scene. Scott McDonald, he's Jack. I was looking them all up, and I looked him up. I was like, wonder what happened to the guy that played the sheriff, and he died in an avalanche. And I'm a little morbid, and my first thought was, well, I guess Jack got his revenge.
Yeah.
Like, I know that's terrible to think.
Horrible,
but it's ironic, because as bad as it sounds, that's like the movie that he's really well known for. Are the Jack Frost films. I mean, he was in quite a bit, but when you look him up, that's what pops up first is Jack Frost.
Yikes. So, I don't know what more to say other than yikes, man. That sucks.
It's just that's one of those films. It's there's something we should do one time. We'll just have a Silent Night, Deadly Night, and we'll watch Jack Frost. That might be a little too much punishment.
A little.
Now, if you have any other horror films from the past you want to bring up, go ahead, because I thought maybe we would just quickly touch on some upcoming Christmas films that we might have seen.
We might have to, because honestly, and I'm going to shit on IMDb right now for their stupid list, because I pulled up Christmas horror films, and their list is god-awful. Because you tell me how the fuck A Christmas Carol is a Christmas horror film. Or what's another one? I mean, come on. I don't understand what any of this is. There are movies in here that I'm like, how is this? Grim and Evil, an episode of Billy and Mandy, is listed as a Christmas movie. A Scooby-Doo Christmas is in here as a horror Christmas. Come on, man.
Hey, I just thought of another Christmas horror film.
What is that?
With you talking about horror films, because I legitimately just went to Google, and the list that Google populated is what I was kind of looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Krampus,
yeah,
from 2015, horror comedy.
Kind of in the same vein. Well, I don't want to say it's same guy that did Trick or Treat, which we have high regard for.
And
Michael
just
Dougherty.
so you know, fun little fact: in the beginning of Krampus, in Krampus, when they have the it shows the houses that are in the snow globes.
Mm-hmm.
Some of those are actually houses at the end when it pulls back and you see all the snow globes.
Yeah.
Some of those are actually from other horror films.
Ah, okay.
Little piece of trivia: if you ever like look up random facts about the movie Krampus, there's a couple scenes where they actually put in houses from other Christmas movies and other horror films.
That's pretty cool.
Kind of cool little fun fact. But Krampus was fun and unexpected. I did not think it was going to... Like, I saw the trailer for it. I was like, this might be good.
Mm-hmm.
They had me sold at the killer gingerbread man cookies.
Yeah.
I thought they were hilarious. So...
Yeah, I don't think I have
there's
anything
not
else.
there's not a lot. Like
there is, but not worth recommending.
Yeah, like
Infinite Santa 8000. What the shit is that? Holiday Hell. I'm just looking. Elves.
Did you see there is a film coming out? I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head, but I had just seen it advertised somewhere. It is a killer nutcracker movie that's coming out.
Feel like I heard about it, but I can't say I know much more than that.
The movie I'm excited for, because we're kind of checking out here. We've named, I think, some of the really good Christmas movies that have already come out. Definitely more than Thanksgiving, which we had talked about previous.
Mm-hmm.
Christmas, Bloody Christmas. I showed you, I think I texted you about it. I don't think I showed you a trailer. Mm-hmm. It's going to be on Shudder, I believe. It's about a robotic Santa that malfunctions and goes on a killing spree.
Mm-hmm.
I think it looks like a lot of fun. The trailer, it's going to be good.
I'm down for that. Cobra is on this list, man. The Sylvester Stallone action cop movie. Tough on Crime Street. This is in the horror Christmas film list on IMDb. I'm sorry, I just had to throw that in because what in the actual fuck? Die Hard is not even in this list, yet Cobra is. Continue. I'm sorry. That just made me angry.
I've just... That's great. Here's a list of some upcoming horror films in time for Christmas. This one already came out. Curse of Jack Frost. It looks a little cheesy, if I'm being honest. Let's see. I'm trying to find the one. Oh, this is not a horror film, but I really want to see it. Violent Night.
I've heard of that, yes.
What's the guy's name that
David
plays...
Harbour.
Yes, as Santa. I think that movie looks really good.
Yeah.
There was a part in the trailer that really made me laugh. It was where there was an explosion getting ready to happen, and he's walking away, and he like looks at the camera, and he's like, I got to look at it, and he turns around and he watches the explosion. Like, just cheesy. It's gotten good reviews, so
yeah. I didn't hear a bad. I don't say they're like super glowing reviews, but what do you expect with this kind of movie? I mean, it just seems like a lot of fun, and that seems to be the consensus. It's just a rollicking good time with some, good action, good kills, whatnot. So I'm down for it.
Yeah, I think as far as like the big ones that I'm really looking forward to, Christmas, Bloody Christmas, because yes, it's a killer Santa, but it's a robotic killer Santa, so he doesn't get tired or anything like that. Gonna be interesting. Mm-hmm. I could see them taking down like one of them and being like, oh, thank God it's finally over. And then there's just an army of robot Santas and them just being like, oh, fuck. And then the camera like cuts to black. That would be great. There's a movie called Mistletoe Massacre coming out. I don't know anything about that one.
No, that one doesn't ring a bell. Actually, the name is kind of like I've read it somewhere, but I couldn't tell you anything about it. Let me see.
It's a horror comedy. Here's what I've got for it. This feature has a bit more than darkness to offer its viewers. This horror comedy focuses on a less than merry outcome at an office Christmas party. And if things turn out as horrifying as the synopsis reads, struggling staff has been invited to the party, but no one will be returning home for the holidays. It's going to be quite the watch. And if this sounds like something to get you into the spirit, Mistletoe Massacre is set to premiere on December 23rd, 2022.
It has Todd Bridges from Different Strokes, man. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing.
I guess we'll find out.
Smurfs. I know they're terrible, or at least that movie was. Smurfs: A Christmas Carol is on this list. I'm going to continue to find more of these oddball things on this horror Christmas movie list.
I can see us like being done recording, and I just get a random text today like, "Why is this on the list?"
Just understand what I'm saying, people. Horror Christmas movie list. Okay? Christmas movies that are also horror films. That's what we're supposed to have here. And the Smurfs are in there.
They don't have the one movie on there.
Which
Jaws, A Christmas Story.
Santa Jaws was on there, but at least that kind of has, there's that thing. At least it's Christmassy and a shark, and I've never watched it. I don't plan on it. It's one of those that just makes me angry when I see it. I'm like, who, why, what, huh?
It's sad because I was joking and I didn't know there was a Santa Jaws.
Santa Jaws. I'm not even joking.
With them redoing all of our childhood films as horror movies, just wait. You're going to see Rudolph's Revenge.
Yeah.
And Rudolph's going to go on a killing spree.
Yeah, if the Bambi one does well, that's where they'll go next. Be like, hey, we've already got a killer deer. Let's make it Rudolph. And he can shoot lasers out of his nose.
I was just going to say lasers.
Of course. Why wouldn't you do lasers?
It makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm. I don't know if you remember this one or not. Just, I don't remember it being much of anything worth looking at, but I do remember watching it. Speaking of Silent Night, Deadly Night, they did kind of a half-assed remake at one point in 2012 called just Silent Night. And it seemed to be more focused on a police force that was actually going after a killer Santa versus, actually following the lunatic. Had like Malcolm McDowell and Jamie King.
I do remember that film, yeah.
It was okay. I wouldn't say that it was a step above the original. It just kind of twisted the format a little bit and did something different with it. But it's all
switched the narrative a little bit, yeah.
I'm not even sure if it was supposed to be a remake. I think they just used the Silent Night element to it and was just like, well, because there's Silent Night, Bloody Night, Silent Night, Violent Night.
There's so many movies that are close in how they are. Honestly, too, with Christmas horror films, I think one of the best things to do is just when you get on, a streaming service, just kind of click around and, look at the titles, see what kind of reviews it has. If it's got if it's got some decent reviews, but it's something you've never heard of, give it a watch. See if it's any good.
All right, well, we're gonna have to watch this one because it's got decent. It's actually got a 7.3.
Okay.
And I've never heard of it. It's a short, mind you, so it's not a full movie. But it's called Treevenge. Would you like to know what it's about?
Yes, please.
Christmas trees ripped out of their forest plan revenge against people enjoying the holidays. The fact that synopsis has a 7.3 star rating on IMDb, I got to see this. This almost seems like it would be one of those Hulu holiday or no, they do the Halloween stories, the shorts or whatever.
Yeah, the Huluween shorts, yeah.
So we're going to have to dig this up. I don't know where this is from. But yeah, that just sounds like insanity. Treevenge. We're going to have to find this.
I will get right on to finding it. I'll have to look it up, see where we can find it. Treevenge. God.
Treevenge.
I love when inanimate objects come to life and go on a killing spree.
It's on YouTube. So that's what I'm watching
there we
later.
go.
Yep.
I'll put it on my list. We can do a review of it on the next episode that we do.
There you go. See, I got something to look forward to.
But I don't have anything else right off the top of my head.
No, it seemed like it was going to be a bigger list, and we felt like we kind of burned right through them, or maybe we just overlooked some that I don't remember, because I felt like we were pretty consistent. We found all the ones that I could remember.
We found way more than we did with our Thanksgiving list, that's for sure. And we knew that we would find more with Christmas. So, but hey, that's a good question for the Ramblers out there.
That is
correct. What are some horror holiday films that you absolutely love that we might have forgotten about?
So, hey, Ramblers, you know what to do. Hit us up on Twitter at Horror Ramblings and say, hey, you forgot about this film, or you forgot about that film. Why aren't you talking about this? Or why did you hate on the Smurfs being in this fucking list that it shouldn't have been in? Or why is Die Hard not a... Don't... You know what? At me, goddammit. We'll argue this shit all day, because it's not a Christmas movie, goddammit. Okay? Die Hard is not a Christmas movie. It's not a horror movie, and at least it wasn't in the list. I'm surprised it wasn't, because Cobra was. What the hell was up? If you've got more to say, I'm sorry. And tweet's just not going to cut it. Send us an email at horrorramblings@gmail.com. And if you love social media groups, follow us on Facebook, join our Facebook group, and hang out with fellow horror fans like yourself. You can even join us on Discord in the Ramblers room, and we can all have group discussions. We can all just pile in there and just be like, hey, this is what we're going to talk about. We can fight about Die Hard. And if you want to find us on Instagram to see an assortment of horror images, you can do that as well. If you're feeling generous, want to support the show financially, head on over to patreon.com/pencil and paper productions, chuck in a buck, and help this and other shows like it grow. And if you want to say nice things about the show, head on over to Apple Podcasts, leave us that beautiful 5-star review. Express your feelings, help the show grow at the same time, and you can do that very same thing on Spotify if you're so inclined. It'd even answer those polls and questions that we didn't know people were answering, but people are. And if you do, we'll shout you out when we find it. I try to take a look, but it's a little difficult. They don't tell us. But whatever you do, it's all appreciated. Most importantly, tell your fellow horror fiends to search Horror Ramblings on the preferred podcasting platform. And if nothing else, keep up with any and all things at pencilpaperproductions.com/horror-ramblings. Links are in the show notes for your convenience.
And remember, guys, whether you're naughty or nice, stay spooky out there.
This has been the Horror Ramblings podcast. Join us next time for even
This has been a Pencil and Paper Podcast Network production.